How many of you remember a Saturday Night Live character named Stuart Smalley? His show was called Daily Affirmations with Stuart Smalley. At some point in each session, he would look into the mirror and say things to himself like, "I deserve good things. I am entitled to my share of happiness. I refuse to beat myself up. I am an attractive person. I am fun to be with." Sometimes he would list off a stream of negative thoughts and have to tell himself that that was just stinking thinking. His classic line went like this: "I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me." Well, I was probably a freshman or sophomore in high school when these episodes aired, and I was filled with my own mix of insecurities. So although I knew that this was a comedy sketch and that Saturday Night Live was picking fun at this idea of self-affirmation, part of me didn't think it was all that funny. Part of me felt a certain kinship to Stuart Smalley, and that part just might have sat at her 3-mirror vanity, a gift given to her by her grandmother. That part just might have sat there staring into the mirror, whispering, "I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me." So when I saw the 365 Grateful video for the first time, the one you just watched or tried to watch, I was inspired. I have seen other things like this on Facebook where people share the things they're grateful for over a chosen span of time. And I have appreciated seeing what friends have stated, and I've briefly considered doing it myself. I like that in this one she focused on feeling a connection with nature. That is also important to me. But there was one part that really struck me. It was when she said that at the end of the project, her husband told her, "I feel like I'm enough for you now." Feeling enough. Wow, feeling enough. What a concept. In fact, I think it's an important concept. A concept with several layers. How do we feel like we're enough? For ourselves, enough for others? How can we get enough out of life? And even on a more practical level, how do we know when we have enough? As I thought about these questions, I realized that I was looking for an understanding of happiness. So I went to the library to do some research. I was not surprised that the woman in the 365 Grateful video was not the first person to go on a quest for happiness. In fact, there was a whole section of books on happiness and gratitude. I checked out The Happiness Makeover, The Gratitude Factor, The Spirituality of Gratitude, one simply called Enough, and then Mason gave me a copy of the book The Happiness Project. Another friend recommended the movie Hector in Search of Happiness. It's about a psychiatrist who has gotten to that "is this all there is" stage in life, where things are okay, nothing is seriously wrong, but life just doesn't feel like enough. So he goes on a journey to find the meaning of happiness. Along the way, he writes a journal and lists 15 points of happiness. I don't want to spoil the movie in case you want to see it, but I will relay some of the key entries that were consistent with what I found in the books. Making comparisons can spoil your happiness. Sort of a keeping up with the Joneses scenario. Comparisons are a losing battle because at some point, no matter who you are, how much you have, there will always be someone with more. Many people see happiness only in their future. Some physicists believe that the future is actually formed by the choices we make. John Shaw wrote, "The future is not a result of choices among alternative paths offered by the present, but a place that is created. Created first in the mind and will, created next in activity. The future is not some place we are going to, but one we are creating. The paths are not to be found, but made. And the activity of making them changes both the maker and the destination. So don't forget to find your happiness here and now in the present. Sometimes happiness is not knowing the whole story. The Dove Company did a campaign called Choose Beautiful. They set it up in different locations all around the world. There were 2 doors, one marked beautiful, one marked average. And they filmed what happened when women saw the doors. It wasn't evident what was on the other side of the doors. What mattered was that everyone was free to choose which door to walk through. Many chose average without hesitation. Groups of them formed a line to file through the average door because that was how they perceived themselves or felt others perceived them. Some of those women later regretted choosing average and felt that if they had had a chance to do it again, they might be able to choose beautiful. Some chose beautiful right away. One mother dragged her daughter through the beautiful door. I hope I would have done that. One friend guided a woman in a wheelchair through the beautiful door. 2 young girls held hands and skipped right through as well. And then there was one woman who stood for a moment, saw the 2 doors, and turned around and walked away. At the end, they ask you which door you would choose. So which door would you choose? Dove is a company that sells mostly beauty products for women, so they focused on the word beautiful. For those who might not identify with the word beautiful, pick an equally loaded word, talented, successful, intelligent, to place up against average. Which door would it be? What is your story? What is on the other side of that door? Avoiding unhappiness is not the road to happiness. M.J. Ryan in the Happiness Project said, "What being happy is about, I believe, is having a home base of contentment and well-being that you return to when the immediate crisis is over, rather than being stuck in chronic anger, worry, or fear. It's about noticing what you can enjoy and appreciate about the rest of your life, even as you face challenges. It's about feeling empowered to take actions that hopefully will improve the situation and enjoying yourself along the way. It's about creating the maximum possibilities of meaning or joy in the midst of the terrible thing." Happiness is being loved for who you are. Most of you know that I have been divorced a long time. And for most of that time, I have been looking for a new relationship. I thought in the beginning that surely with all the people I know, someone would know someone, and that someone would set us up. Simple. What I discovered was that married people only know married people, and single people are, well, the competition. So I dove into the world of online dating. Match.com, eHarmony, Our Time, Senior Meet, UU Singles, Green Singles, Dharma Singles. I wrote fascinating descriptions of myself, posted lovely photos, described my interests and what I was looking for in a match. I edited and revised and updated as time went by. Sometimes it was fun to get a wink or a note. It can be flattering to have total strangers pick you out of the hundreds of thousands of women on the sites. And occasionally I did go out on a date. But more often than not, online dating seemed to be an exercise in not being enough. These experiences told me I was not smart enough, not thin enough, not pretty enough, not young enough, not sexy enough, not Christian enough, not conservative enough. And it wasn't just all about me. With a click of the not interested key, I could tell someone else that they were not tall enough, not liberal enough, not UU enough for me. Although these sites boast huge numbers of success stories and the idea of online dating makes a lot of practical sense in terms of giving people more opportunities to meet people They never would meet otherwise. I found the actual practice of it to go against my values. This method of shopping for people and deleting them for the tiniest reasons goes against my belief in the inherent worth and dignity of every person, and ultimately left me with a feeling that I would never be enough for anyone and that I was just unlovable. Okay, stop before you all start running up here and hugging on me. Remember that I am good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me. But I did learn a valuable lesson about happiness. If you discover something you're doing in your life is actually chiseling away at your happiness, it's okay to stop. Fear is an impediment to happiness. M.J. Ryan wrote, "There are no guarantees against tragedy striking. But what we can do when we start down this fearful path is to take the opportunity to appreciate that what we are afraid of losing is right here in front of us. We can't control the future, but we can truly enjoy the person, place, or thing right now, and we can experience the maximum joy possible in this very moment. Indeed, it is precisely because life is unpredictable that we have the duty of delight, as Dorothy Day called it, a responsibility to relish, cherish, and value the gifts we have been given, so that when they are taken away through death or other changes that life's impermanence brings our way, we will not have to also bear the pain of having failed to appreciate what we had." In terms of practice, I offer this hugging meditation by Thich Nhat Hanh. All you need is someone you care about. They don't even have to know you're doing it. Do 3 hugs in silence. First hug, remember that the person you are hugging will not always be here, that he or she will sometime die. Second hug, remember that you will not always be here, that you will die someday. In the third hug, realize that you are here, right now, together in this moment that will never come again. Happiness is feeling completely alive. One way to feel completely alive is to find your flow. Flow is that state of mind when you are performing at your best, are involved fully in a task, and enjoy yourself most. The poet David Whyte calls it the numinous experience of the present, where we forget ourselves in the consummation of the moment. This self-forgetfulness, says Ryan, is at the heart of flow. Flow is experienced as an absence of emotion. You tend to feel nothing at the time because you are fully absorbed in the task. A professor at Claremont University said, "Flow is created under certain specific conditions. You're doing something challenging that requires competency and has a clear goal. You concentrate on it. You simultaneously have a sense of control and effortless involvement. Your sense of self vanishes and time stops. This full engagement, in turn, creates gratification." Want to practice feeling more alive? Write down 3 times when you felt most alive. What were you doing? How could you do those things more often? These next 2 thoughts were not in the movie, but I would like to add them. Don't put your happiness eggs in one basket. Ryan wrote in her chapter called Expand Your Happiness Portfolio, "It was only when I began to experience satisfaction and fulfillment from a number of places, work, love, friendship, that I came to see that the sources of my happiness was my own engagement with life, with the persons, places, and things that give my existence pleasure and meaning. And the more I cultivate, the happier my life is because I'm not dependent on any one as a sole source." Expectations kill happiness. Ryan wrote, "They create bitterness when you don't get what you expect and don't allow you to enjoy the surprise of what you do receive. If you don't get what you expected, you're disappointed. If you do get what you expected, you take it for granted because you assumed you would. Therefore, you don't experience happiness because you don't feel gratitude. So if expectations get in the way of happiness, how do we approach what we want in our lives? Rather than expect things from others, I think what we're called on to do is to aspire to our own goals and dreams. Aspiration is inner-directed. It comes from our deepest core. With aspiration, rather than being dependent on anyone else's behavior, we say, I'm going for what I want with all my being. I hope it comes to pass. Since I'm not in charge of the world, there could be all kinds of reasons beyond my control why what I want can't happen, but I will give it my all. Well, I've given you a lot to think about so far, so let me review a bit. Don't make comparisons. Be present. Live in the here and now. Get to know yourself. Choose a door. Bad stuff happens, so enjoy the good stuff. Love yourself. Don't let fear limit you. Be alive. Spread the joy. Aspire to be your best self. Before I finish, I wanted to share a few reasons why you should live with enough as opposed to too much. Will Davis Jr., author of Enough, provides these thoughts. 1. With enough, you'll have more time. Stuff and money requires management. You can simplify your life just by reducing your possessions. 2. You'll have more peace. Having more stuff increases stress and distracts you from the things that really matter. 3. You'll help your relationships. Less to manage gives you more time and emotional energy to invest in your loved ones. 4. You'll be more content and have more joy. When you stop looking for and wanting more and more, you'll find more contentment in what you have. 5. You'll have less or no debt. If you stop spending on stuff you'll have more money to save, which will help prepare you for difficult financial times should they arise in the future. 6. You'll be able to give more. Studies have shown time after time that people with less are often more generous, and we all know that giving feels good. If you're not sure what's important, what you need and what you don't, I read about 2 different ideas. 1, try the 30-second test. If there was a fire in your house and you had to leave immediately, you had only 30 seconds to grab what you needed, what would you take? When you answer that question, you will be right at the heart of what having enough means. 2, the 1-year rule. The 1-year rule can help with keeping things in a manageable amount. Once a year, go through your stuff. Anything you haven't used in 1 year, donate it or get rid of it. In the Happiness Project, Gretchen Rubin asked herself 3 questions. How could I discipline myself to feel grateful for my ordinary day? How could I set a higher standard for myself as a wife, mother, writer, or friend? How could I let go of everyday annoyances to keep a larger, more transcendent perspective? She chose to keep her project within the constraints of everyday life. Unlike Henry David Thoreau's Radical Happiness Project, where he built a life at Walden Pond from scratch, Gretchen did not change her surroundings in order to transform herself. So I've been thinking about Gretchen's questions. I've been thinking about the 365 Grateful video. And Lenny, who's a member here, gave me a pretty little notebook. So each day since January 1st, I've jotted down things I've observed or done that made me happy. Seeing a chicken literally cross the road in front of me. And yes, I asked why. The first snow flurries of the season. Time with friends, children's smiles, all were good. In the blurb I wrote to describe this service, I asked, how can we turn "Is this all there is?" to "It's enough"? That's something I think many of us would benefit from. One of the suggestions I read was to study what makes other people happy. Observe your friends and coworkers. What seems to make them happy? Write it down, and then try to do those things. The things you notice will lead you on your own path to happiness. For this, I'm going to look to my dad. My dad lived in Newport News in a one-bedroom apartment for the last 5 years of his life. From my point of view, he lived a rather simple life, and to me it seemed monotonous and kind of boring. He ate the same food each week. He had made himself a weekly menu so that he knew what to cook each day. He came over to my house every day and worked in the yard all afternoon. He watched Fox News and a lineup of conservative talk shows and went to bed. He enjoyed visits with family, called his brother every Sunday. He made a friend in his building, and they went to lunch together and helped each other get to doctor's appointments. He never went to a movie, never went to the beach, never went shopping for new clothes, only purchased necessities, and he was happy. He often boasted that he had a great life, and it pleased him that he had lived an X number of years longer than the average American male. When we found out he was going to die and that it was going to be quick, my immediate thoughts were towards some kind of bucket list. Was there some amazing thing he still wanted to do? Not really. Visits from family seemed most important, so we did that. All his kids, his brother, my mother, some grandkids, some nephews and nieces and friends. Despite doing what we could when he did die, I spent a lot of time agonizing over whether we had done enough. Had we made the right decision, choosing hospice over unpleasant treatments that had little chance of success? My biggest worry was that we had given up on his life, that we hadn't fought hard enough. But with time, I have come to realize that he had lived a happy life, and he was grateful for it. He had found his enough, and his enough truly was enough. So that's what I'm challenging us to do this morning. If you're searching for more happiness, there are lots of guides out there. Start your own gratitude project or happiness makeover. Read books, watch videos or movies. Study what works for others. Remember to be grateful every day. And when you find your enough, smile and be happy, knowing that enough is enough.